Right, we are live. So, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of This Week Unloaded. Your host, Rich White, as usual. And as seems to be the standard at this anymore, don't have a panel as yet. So, they'll probably be rolling in here as the show goes on. So, until then, you got me to talk to. So, yeah, I'm still trying to get things set up. So, me couple minutes. Had an issue with Cats had done something really freaking stupid. So yeah, what am I doing? Why isn't it giving me the? What the hell? Okay, there it is. Oh man, for some reason my brain was not working. Trying to pop out the chat, and my brain is just like not come, you know, comprehending where the thing was. It's been one of those kind of days. Anyway, let's see. Let me get back over here. We can pull that up and see who's out there on the YouTube side. So far, I'm seeing Rob D, who's telling me to StreamYard it. No. Uh, Patriot in the Dark out there. Justin Grimm. Ron 2A Matters. Pack Rats Out. Attic. And that's all I'm seeing. So, yep, that's who I'm seeing. So, yep. It says we got two people watching on X as well. So, good evening to you. And the one person it always says is watching on uh, the Rumbles. So, yeah. The hell? Things, things is not, for some reason, it's being weird. So, yeah. Anyway, there, I got that pulled up. Uh, Justin was asking, what have Muslims done now? Oh, funny you should ask that. There's a story out of uh, Somali, well, not Somalia, but Somali soda, Minnesota, if you will. There's a guy who was arrested and prosecuted for raping two women. The prosecutor on the case, whose name I can't remember off the top of my head right now, give me a minute here. Damn it, what the hell was it? Now I gotta find it. Give me a second here to find it. I'll find it for you and let you know what her name was. But anyway, she accepted a. Oh, here it is. It's Mary Moriarty. She accepted a plea agreement on a person who raped two women. Right? What was the plea bargain? What was the plea deal? No prison time. No prison time. Rape two women. When raped two women. No prison time. No prison time for raping two people. What happens as a result? This guy who was on probation, that's what he gets. He gets probation for raping two women. Goes out and while on probation and rapes a third woman. This prosecutor needs to be charged with being an accessory to that third rape charge that this guy is going to face. She is well, I can't say single-handedly because the guy went out and raped her, so she's not, but she is directly responsible for that guy having gone out and raped another woman. This is getting old. This is getting very old. At least once a week, there's a story of some criminal who's in this country that shouldn't be in this country going out and raping somebody or killing somebody. And the left protecting them. Whether it be a leftist judge, a leftist prosecutor. This has got to stop. Hell, you got a judge who's sitting on the bench who's a citizen of a foreign country. He's sitting on the foreign bench, appointed by Joe Biden. He's a freaking foreign citizen sitting on the federal judiciary. If you're a citizen of another country, you should not be sitting on the U.S. judiciary. And this guy has blocked some of what the Trump administration has tried doing when it comes to um, deporting people who aren't supposed to be in the country. It's getting old. This I don't know. Just getting real damn old seeing this kind of shit every goddamn week. Every damn week. What makes it even better, I don't know if you all heard this one or not, but come beginning of 2026, the head of the useless United Nations is going to be a Somalian guy. And the UN is saying that the world needs to stop being allies with the United States, essentially. You got the EU wanting to go after Americans and American companies for saying things that we're allowed to say because of the First Amendment. Yeah. Denny's plant-based journey over on YouTube side, that is crazy. What are we doing? Yeah. It's a great question, Denny. And good evening to you, by the way. Haven't said hi to you yet, but yeah. What are we doing? Yeah, not compatible with Western civilization. Exactly, Justin. Exactly. And on that note, apparently Christmas, according to Politico's European branch, Christmas is a right wing conspiracy of some sort. Vanessa Kitty out on the YouTube side. Evening to you. Yeah, let me pull this up here as soon as I find where it's at. Where did it go? Come on, where is it? Oh, there it is. Okay, found it. Here we go. Just make sure this is being shared. Yes, it is. Yes, it comes from Town Hall, Matt Vespa, and it's from Christmas Day. The story from Christmas Day itself. So, and the title of this story is, of course, Politico says Christmas is a right wing boogaloo. Of course, Politico Europe would take this route. Instead of bashing the Islamists that have infested Europe and oh man, gone at their Christmas markets, the publication decided to rip in. Well, it says ruin Christmas markets. The publication decided to rip into normal people by claiming that the Christmas holiday was some right wing celebration akin to neo Nazis were celebrating Hitler's birthday via Politico Europe. You got Scott Jennings here having posted on X about it, saying, casting Christmas as a maker of Christian civilization. Politico Europe, far right parties are claiming the festive season as their own, casting Christmas as a maker of Christian civilization that is under threat, positioning themselves as the last line of defense against a supposedly hostile secular left. Again, that's I can't talk right now. Politico's Europe uh, division. And again, got another person on X saying Christmas is being cast, saying basically the same thing, and posting part of what Politico Europe said on that. And again, claiming that far left parties are claiming the festive season as their own, casting Christmas as a maker of Christian civilization, blah blah blah. Okay, but here we got the whole thing from Politico. Christmas is becoming a new front line in Europe's culture wars. Far right parties are claiming the festive season as their own, casting Christmas as a marker, of Christian civilization that is under threat and positioning itself as the last line of defense against a supposedly hostile circular left. The trope questions a familiar refrain against the Atlantic that was first propagated by Fox News, which hosts have invited, I don't know, against the purported word on Christmas for years. U.S. President Donald Trump claims to have brought back the phrase Merry Christmas in the U.S., framing it as a defiance against political correctness. Now, French, European French. Damn, I can't talk right now, man. I am so out of it. My head is bugging me. Sorry, folks. So bear with me. My brain is not working properly. Anyway, and now European far right parties personally are more usually face focused on immigration or law and order concerns have adopted similar language, recasting Christmas as the latest battleground in a broader struggle over culture. In Italy, Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has made the defense of Christmas traditions central to her political identity. She has repeatedly rather, framed the holiday as part of the nation's endangered heritage, railing against what she calls ideological attempts to dilute it. How can my culture offend you? Maloney has asked in the past, defending nativity scenes in public spaces. She has argued that children should learn the values of the Nativity rather than just associating Christmas with food and presents, and rejected the idea that long-standing traditions should be altered. This year, Maloney said she was abstaining from alcohol until Christmas, portraying herself as a practitioner of spirituality and tradition. I can't anymore. It's Christmas. I've been around. It's been around for centuries. It's not some right wing subliminal messaging campaign. Over 1 billion people celebrate it every year. I know that's news to you godless heathens in the press, but these are the facts. Piss off a liberal and celebrate this joyous holiday with your families. Merry Christmas, everyone. So, yeah. You got the left claiming that Christmas is a right wing conspiracy. Is anybody surprised by this at this point? Oh, they are claiming Christmas is a left wing conspiracy, or right wing conspiracy, rather. And it's a left wing conspiracy that the right wing is trying to do this. But yeah, it's crazy, man. What the hell is going on? You got leftists saying that Christmas is not something that should be celebrated, essentially, at this point. Yeah. Pack Rat's Addict said everything is a right wing conspiracy, even his dog's farts are. Yeah. Well, there are people out there that say dogs are evil, so, you know, there's that. But it's ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Not surprised. Can't say I'm surprised. I mean, seriously, Christmas is a federal holiday. Christmas is also a religious holiday. So of course the left is going to, at this point, the current left, they're going. I mean, there's some that are saying, "Oh, it's because of the whole separation of church and state and all this other nonsensical nonsense." And Denny says he knows this much: the world isn't treating the holidays like they used to. Even in the oil field, we used to shut down and have little work. This year, we were busy every day. It's sad how we treat it. Yeah. my wife and son both had off on Christmas Day. So when I worked at Greyhound, I would I had to work Christmas Day. I had to work Thanksgiving too that year. But something like Greyhound, it's going to be open every day of the year. Um, it's nuts, man. But, yeah. And in other news, and I called this when it happened, the when the Islamic attack on Bondi Beach in Australia. When it happened, I said the day it happened, you know, we had a show that night on here, and I said to give them a day or so to get a law proposed to uh, even more so go after the Australians' rights to keep and bear firearms, even more so than what they already had. And lo and behold, they went and did it. It was uh, it was proposed on that Monday, and it was passed earlier this past week. Going back to December story again from Town Hall. I guess I could share that one too. And the way I'm reading tonight is probably going to screw it all up. But yeah, there it is. So, yeah, never let a crisis go to waste. Aussie polls, politicians, ram through Bondi Beach inspired gun control and speech laws. Again, this is from Christmas Day. This is from Amy Curtis, again, Town Hall. Immediately after two Islamic terrorists opened fire on a crowd of Jews celebrating Hanukkah on Bondi Beach, the leftist government responded by decrying phobia rather, and vowing more stricter gun control and hate speech legislation to combat the problem. At the memorial service, a man who told PM Anthony Albanese he had blood on his hands was immediately arrested. Another politician said the reason that Australia doesn't enjoy the same free speech protections as America is that it prioritizes having a multicultural society under free speech. Now, let's stop right there. If you are arresting people and throwing them in jail for so called hate speech, you do not have free speech. Period. End of discussion. Continuing with the article, Premier Chris Minns said, I recognize and I fully said from the beginning that we don't have the same freedom of speech laws that they have in the United States. And the reason for that is we want to hold together a multicultural community and have people live in peace, free from the vilification and hatred that we do see around the world. Again, if this is what you think and this is what you're doing, you don't have free speech. You don't have free speech, period. End of discussion. There is no free speech in Australia. There's no free speech in the UK. There's none in Europe, period. And politicians led by Minns rather, in New South Wales have made good on their word, passing sweeping new anti-gun and anti-free speech legislation. According to Sky News Australia on X, New South Wales has rushed through far reaching changes to gun ownership and protest powers after an all night parliamentary debate sparked by the Bondi Beach terror attack. According to Sky News, New South Wales, or NSW, politicians have enacted some of the toughest gun and protest laws in the country in the wake of the Bondi Beach shooting. They passed the bill in the wee hours of Wednesday morning, which is what politicians who value transparency and democracy do. That Wednesday being Christmas Eve, obviously. The law gives the NSW police commissioner expanded powers to prevent street protest once a terrorism declaration has been issued. This means protests can be banned from public roads for an initial 14-day period that can be extended up to 3 months. Liberal MP Susan Carter tried to expand the ban to parks and beaches. An interesting choice, no? If you think this will apply to the Islamists, you're fooling yourself. Albanese and others decried the rise of the far right in response to the Bondi Beach terrorist attack. So these laws will be used to silence people who object to the Islamist takeover of Australia. The push to ban rallies on beaches means that they likely have banned the Bondi Beach Hanukkah celebration from ever happening in the first place. This legislation also means gun owners will now be allowed to a maximum of 4 firearms, with farmers and professional shooters allowed 10 weapons, but their licenses will be subject to more frequent review and a new 2-year renewal system instead of the current 5-year law. Firearms can fire multiple rounds without reloading, have been banned outright. So, yeah, you can have a gun in Australia if it's a single shot. Of course, this ignores the fact that Bondi terrorist Sajid Akram applied for and was granted a firearms license in 2023, years after his son Naveed, the other Bondi terrorist, was investigated by authorities for ties to ISIS. None of these new laws will help Australians, Jewish or otherwise, safe or will help keep uh, Australians, Jewish or otherwise, safe from terrorists. Min said the legislation will withstand the scrutiny of critics. We've run our legislation thoroughly through the Crown Solicitor. We are alive to the threat from the High Court and the reversal of these challenges, Min said. We're all confident that they are sound constitutionally. Editors note the radical left will stop at nothing to enact their radical gun control agenda and strip us of our Second Amendment rights. Yeah. So, yeah, Australia has just made their anti gun laws worse, at least in the southwest or whatever it was, New South Wales area. Just I'm saying, divide and conquer. And Packer says, according to Art of War, division is the way to win a war. And I don't think we are at war. I think again now it's just words. Mm, I would say it's more of a Cold War. We haven't gone to, but even then, we've still had some battlefield encounters. So, I mean, Packrat says, "Oh, the bad bills pass in the early morning or late at night." Yeah, but I wouldn't necessarily say that we're not at war right now. Again, I wouldn't say necessarily a um, full on uh, active war, more along the lines of a Cold War. So not too unsimilar from when the Cold War versus the Soviet Union. One side, it's on a you got on one side you got the leftists and Islamists, and on the other side you have some right wing, but there's also, you know, on the right now you got people like who claim to be right wing anyway. You got uh, Nick Fuentes, Tucker Carlson, who I've completely lost all respect for, and Candace Owens, and others like them. You got so yeah, it's it's not a shooting war per se, but not to say that it won't happen eventually. It's it's getting crazy. It's getting crazier and crazier every day, every week. You know, leading into Christmas Day, there were numerous Muslim Dawa guys on X that were putting up all these anti-Christmas posts and whatnot, intentionally putting up anti-Christmas things, trying to stir people up, and they were successful in doing so. You know, they putting that similar videos on YouTube. This is the first year I can remember seeing those kind of posts on X during the Christmas holiday season. You didn't see that last year. You didn't see it the year before, but you saw it, but it was going on this year. Why? Because they're gaining more and more ground in certain places. So they start speaking up more. And there was a Patterson, New Jersey. You know, everybody's been talking about Somalia and Dearborn and Hamtramck in Michigan. Or, you know, Patterson, New Jersey hasn't been getting as much news, but most of their government, if not all their government, the local government in Patterson's Muslims who primarily all speak Arabic. Yet, you know, we've talked. Yeah, Denny says they are definitely pushing the envelope in several places around the country. It is coming to a city near you, all of us, soon if we don't stop it. Yeah, Texas, right? Texas is a perfect example of where, I mean, you probably know more about the situation in Texas than I do, Denny. You're there. You're in Texas, but you have what was going to be, what was it, Epic, the Muslim town that they tried building, but then they got stopped on doing that and were sued by the state for it and stopped it. So what did they do? They changed the name of the program and go back and, you know, start all over again, and are now again being sued by the state. So I forget what they call it now, the Meadow or something like that is what they're calling it now. But yeah, if at first they don't succeed, they'll just try again. If you try stopping them based on one law, they'll go, okay, we'll adopt and we'll go into it and do it this way with this law. And that doesn't even count the fraud that's been going that they've been pulling in Minnesota. The Islamic Somalis up in Nebraska, so-called daycares that have no students, no kids go to them, and yet somehow they're collecting millions of dollars, and mainstream media is not even covering it. Then he says, "Yeah, look at the map of mosques surrounding the DFW area, Houston, etc. If you Google it in the DFI and look at the or DFW, excuse me, and look at the strategic location of these places, it looks like a series of rings that like a dartboard." Yeah, he said they're building facilities all over Texas. It's coming here quickly. Yeah, remember Houston? Houston's where an imam tried forcing people to follow Sharia law until that was put to a stop. You know, you under Sharia law, you can't sell alcohol or anything like that. You know, convenience stores wouldn't be. He tried stopping convenience stores from selling beer and from having to sell only things that are halal, which means basically meat that is um, not humanely butchered. You know, basically, at halal uh, style butchering is very inhumane and uh, torturous toward the animals. Pack Rat Static says the mainstream media is getting paid not to cover it, or they just don't want to cover it because you know. Remember, the vast majority of the mainstream media is controlled by the left, and the left is allied with the Islamist, which is why Minnesota you see them getting away with the fraud they've been getting away with. There's you got independent journalists that are going around in Minnesota covering what's going on up there, and they've uncovered multiple times that Tim Walz knows what's going on. The governor of Minnesota knows what's happening and is doing nothing to stop it. And keep in mind that the attorney general in Minnesota is also a Muslim. He's a leftist and a Muslim who defends what they're doing. It's going to take the feds going in and doing something because the local authorities in Minnesota aren't going to do shit. They're simply not going to do anything because, well, the attorney general in Minnesota is on their side. The governor in Minnesota is on their side. And then he says 100% Minnesota is a mess. Yeah, absolutely. trying to remember the name of the guy that was going around in Minnesota and he was going to like these health clinics and stuff, and being told that he had to leave because then they wouldn't answer his questions because they're all he did was went in and asked them about their coverage plans and everything, for their patients and whatnot. And they refused to answer his questions, told him he had to leave. Yeah, there he is. Nick Shirley, that's his name. He's an independent journalist. He's got a 42-minute video on X where he's going in and trying to talk to these various different Somali fraudsters who are engaging in these illegal actions. Says in one day they uncovered $110 million in fraud. And overall, so far, he's uncovered $9 billion worth of fraud. $9 billion, with a lot of this money going back to Somalia. They're sending this stuff to Somalia. And keep in mind, you've got Somali politicians who have stated that they don't serve the American people. They don't serve U.S. law. They serve Somali law, the Somali people. Ilhan Omar herself has stated that the president of the United States isn't her president. The president of Somalia is. Justin Grimm says they are all corrupt, and Packrat's Attic says it would not be the first time that Christians have gone to war with Muslims. No. You go back to the Thomas Jefferson administration, the very first war that the United States fought that wasn't against the British was against Islamic pirates, the pirates of the Barbary Coast based out of Tripoli. Hence the Marine Corps hymn, from the shores of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. The halls of Montezuma talking about the Mexican American War, the shores of Tripoli, the war against the Barbary Coast pirates, who were attacking U.S. shipping interests in the Mediterranean and taking U.S. Sailors, both U.S. Navy and just private um, shipping interests, were taking them, taking the ships and attacking them, taking their cargo. Surviving sailors turned into slaves and put on these ships as rowers because they were still using like Spanish style galleys and whatnot, which they weren't just sailing ships; they were rowing ships, and they were treated very poorly. If you were a slave on one of those Islamic sailing vessels, you were not long for the world. It was not uncommon for them to either starve or beat the slaves that were rowers on the ships to death, and then just throw them into the sea. You're dead, right into the ocean you go. They didn't care. Yeah. And Jefferson tried to settle that peacefully without having to go to war, without having to settle the Marines in. But when Jefferson sent ambassador to speak with the Islamists, they said, no, we're not going to stop it. And when the ambassador asked them why, the representative from the Islamic Pirates' response was, because the Quran tells us to. At which point, Jefferson read the Quran to better understand what he was dealing with, what the country was dealing with. And he sent the Marines in. And by the way, that war is where the Marines got the name Leatherneck from. It comes from the Muslims using these really sharp sabers from horseback, and they would slice people's heads off by charging them with their horses and these sabers. So what the Marine Corps did to the Marines that were sent in, what they did to protect themselves from that was they started wearing leather armor bands around their neck, and hence the nickname the Leathernecks for the Marines. Um, yeah, this is what's been going on throughout history. It's been going on for 1,400 years. Everybody points to the Atlantic slave trade that the U.S. participated in. They're like, oh, that's evil. It's bad. It's bad. The Islamic slave trade's been going on for 1,400 years. Let me repeat that. The Islamic slave trade has been going on for over 1,400 years. In some areas, it's still ongoing. Particularly in Africa. The Western countries, we stopped it. We stopped slaves. The British, they banned slavery. The U.S. banned slavery. France banned slavery. Germany banned slavery. The Muslims are still engaging in it. Like Pack Rat Attic says, and it's still going on. Yeah. It's absolutely crazy. And it doesn't even cover the Islamists who think that child marriage is okay and that cousin marriage is okay. It's, Islam's evil, folks. That's all there is to it. Islam is evil. Their Quran is evil. Pack Rat's Attic says even in South America with the cartels are getting bad too. The cartels have always been bad. Some of the drugs that the cartels get their hands on are coming from the Middle Eastern and Islamic countries, like heroin and opium. A lot of that comes from Middle Eastern countries, Afghanistan, Pakistan. They ship it the cartels, and then the cartels ship it into the United States. Yeah, it's a crazy world we live in. Yeah, it's just going to keep getting worse and worse at this point. I wonder if anybody said anything over on X. Yep. Who said anything on X? Oh man, I'm yawning. Okay. Yeah, the counter's off on X unless I'm behind somehow. Did I get behind? Yeah, I did. What the hell? Okay. There we go. Damn it. No. Don't. All right, good. There. Okay. I had to catch up with X. X somehow got behind. But yeah, there's still no comments over there, so. But yeah. I mean, I could sit here and quote Quran verses, but was it 532 is one that they love to take out of context. I mean, yeah, they try saying that the Quran's saying if you kill somebody, you're going to hell. What they ignore is the fact that 532 also says, except for if you kill somebody or not kill somebody, how do they put it? This is worded wrong. That's not the version I'm looking for. That's not the translation I'm looking for. But it basically, whoever kills a soul, unless for a soul or for corruption done in the land, it is if he had slain mankind entirely. Notice the for corruption part, that includes anything. Anything. Literally. It means anything. If you do anything that goes against Islam, that's corruption in the land. So yeah, don't kill anybody, but if they're unless they're doing anything that goes against the Quran. If they're going against the Quran, you can kill them all you want. Is essentially what the Quran says. But they'll only quote the first part of that where don't kill anybody. If you kill anybody, it's like you killed everybody, basically. Again, until you get to the exceptions. One being if somebody kills somebody, they're, in other words, the death penalty, which a lot of states in the United States still have the death penalty for first degree homicide. That's fine and dandy. No problem with that. It's the corruption in the land part. You eat pork, that's corruption in the land. You say Allah is not real, that's corruption in the land. You say Muhammad's a pedophile, that's corruption in the land. You know, any of that kind of stuff. You leave Islam for Christianity, you're apostate, and that's corruption in the land. You say Jesus is God, that's corruption in the land. That's 72 virgins. Pack rat, not 100, 72. Oh, yeah, it says they're women. Or I should say young women, possibly in puberty, because it talks about how they have budding breasts. So yeah, it's talking about 72 virgin women, but not necessarily adults. Yeah, Moose says 72, 72 Virginians. And I don't think it's 72 Virginians. It's definitely 72 virgins who will just regain their virginity after the fact. Like one of the Denny's heading out for the night says good night. It says night folks, have a great week. You too, Denny. Thanks for watching. But, yeah. 72 virgins who become who will always stay virgins. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if you have sex with them, they're no longer a virgin. It doesn't matter if their hymens and everything go back into shape or not. They're still not virgins at that point. They've lost their virginity at that point. So yeah, I mean, more proof that Allah doesn't understand human biology, or I should say Muhammad, because Muhammad's the one that came up with the Quran. Allah had nothing to do with it because their Allah is nothing but Muhammad's sock puppet. Anytime Muhammad wanted something, oh, I got a revelation from Allah saying that I can do this anyway. Ha ha. Moose says depends on which hole. That's craziness. Oh, excuse me. It's all craziness. All craziness. Yeah, still waiting to see if I get a pin on here. If we do, we do have a short bracket tonight. I didn't do a whole 32 round bracket, 32 thing, but I do have a bracket of things to do if we get people in here. So, Mood says it's halftime 49ers versus Bears. A game that really doesn't mean anything. I mean, I guess they, they're still vying for a position, I guess. They both pretty much clinched a playoff position anyway. Speaking of which, the Steelers blew that opportunity today against Cleveland. Bad play calling. Bad play calling. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to stay awake at this point. Jesus Christ, I keep sneezing. Sneezing. Yawning. Not sneezing. Yawning. I can't even talk. My brain is not working right. Like I said, my head's bugging me, so you have to excuse me a little bit. I had just taken medicine before I went live, so yeah, that Steeler game they screwed up. They screwed up bad. Again, it's the play calling. They were averaging over 5 yards a run. No, the Steelers ain't made it to the playoffs yet, buddy. They got to beat Baltimore next week. If they'd have beat the Browns today, they would have been in the playoffs. So no, they're not in the playoffs yet. And frankly, I don't want them to at this point. I was hoping they wouldn't have had a winning season because maybe then they would have fired Tomlin's ass, but no. We're going to have to deal with Mike Tomlin for yet another year because, gosh darn it, he got another winning record. Fuck. Anyway. Let's see. Let's look at the NFL playoff. I don't know that ain't what I want. Damn it. That ain't what I want either. Oh, well. There we go. That's what I want. Let's see what the standings look like right now. Just shits and giggles. Well, the Patriots have clinched their division at 13-3. Broncos have also clinched their division at 13-3. Jaguars and Texans will come down to next week. They both won today. Jaguars currently have a 1-game lead. Steelers currently have a 1-game lead over the Ravens, but they play next week, and if the Ravens win, they make the playoffs, and the Steelers don't. In the NFC, the Bears have won their division. The Eagles have won their division. Panthers and Buccaneers comes down to next week. I believe whoever wins that game wins their division. Seahawks and Niners have neither one of them have clinched their division yet. If the 49ers lose, then I believe Seattle wins their division at that point. So, and that's the current standings and situation. I have no idea who's winning that game, so I haven't looked at the score. So let me see. What else? What else is going on? I can look here and see what the score is right now. Let's see. What is the score? Right now, 49ers are up by 7 on the Bears. The Bears have the ball. 3rd and 14 at the San Francisco 46. At least according to the score on the page I'm looking at. By the way, the Steelers got screwed over in that game. There should have been a defensive pass interference call in the Steelers' last play, and it wasn't called in the end zone. So yeah, there's that. Guy clearly grabbed the receiver's arm, wasn't looking back for the ball. No flag was thrown. Officiating in that game was bad. If I don't get a panel soon, I'm just going to call it a night. So this ain't. No. Oh yeah. In case anybody's wondering why we got started late, by the way, that brand new Christmas tree I bought the wife because that's what she wanted for Christmas, and that's what I got her. Well, one of the darling cats chewed through the goddamn cable on the tree and ruined the goddamn Christmas tree. Fucking little bastards. I am sick of these goddamned animals. That's pack rats over on the X side of things. Wish they gave a. Oh, they do have timestamps. Okay. So, yeah. Now I got the timestamp up. So now I know when somebody says something. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Packer said he was over there. Yeah. Yeah, that's what the Rumble Studio doesn't show the chat on X. So it'll show who's over the, a number count in the viewers tally, but it doesn't connect over with the chat and stuff. So if somebody says something on X, I have to go over and check periodically to see if anybody is saying anything. So if I don't get to what you're saying right away, if you're on X, I apologize. It's the way it goes with X because it's not fully integrated. Did they make the tree look like World War III? No, but the lights will not work. They ruined the lights on the tree. It was a nice one too, where it had multiple different settings for the lights, where you can make it either be solid white lights, blinking white lights, solid color lights, blinking colored lights, or a mix of the two. And well, they decided that the cord was something they could chew on, and killed that function. It no longer lights up. She emailed the company asking if the warranty on the tree would cover that or not. So waiting to see what they say when they get back to her, which Packer says that can be fixed. No, no, it can't. They did a number on the cord. It's yeah, It's not the cord where the cord plugs in. It's one of the cords that's up in the tree itself, and yeah, there's not enough wire to rewire it. Yeah, that really ticked her off that they did that. But yeah, And of course, one of them wants to play with the ball toy. They haven't played with that thing all day. Now I'm doing the show. They decide they want to play with it. Oh, man. And speaking of Christmas, this is one of the things I got. That's a Smith & Wesson $25 knife. Yeah. That's one of the things that she got me. She saw that at the store. Like, ooh, I'm going to get that. And then my Queen shirt. That's another thing. Yeah. Basically, I got a knife and a few T-shirts. Got the Queen shirt. The Iron Maiden shirt I wore last week was one from my son. I got a Metallica T-shirt from him. What else? Oh, the wife got me a Deadpool shirt that says "Did I offend you?" on it, and that was the other one she got me. Oh, Fantastic Four comic book style shirt. Yeah, that's what I got from the wife was the knife and a few T-shirts, which do not add up to what that Christmas tree cost. Oh well. Let's see. Anybody say anything interesting on X while we were live? And looking through X, seeing if there's anything worth pointing out here. Do you support Somali population being deported back to Somalia? I'm going to go with yes on that poll. Who lives of TikTok says Lisa Hortman was the only Democrat to vote against health care funding for illegals. She was murdered by a Tim Walz appointee a few days later. Yep. And that disappeared from the media really quick. Now, speaking about Christmas Day, the Trump administration gave Christians in Nigeria a interesting Christmas gift. They bombed ISIS terrorists on Christmas Day in Nigeria. Pack Rat's asking if you heard about the ruling from Judge Benitez today. No, I have not heard about that. I don't know if anybody on X has said anything about it or not, but no, I haven't. There was a judge in Minnesota that threw out a unanimous jury verdict in a $7.2 million Somali Medicare fraud case. Judge Sarah West. Jury deliberated less than 2 hours and convicted Abdifata Youssef on all counts for stealing taxpayer dollars, fake billing luxury cars, designer clothes on taxpayer dime, and Judge West dropped a 35-page bombshell calling all the evidence circumstantial and throughout the conviction, claiming the state didn't prove intent beyond reasonable doubt. Yep. So yeah, it just gets better and better. Oh, why am I not surprised? Packrat said he said that parents have the right to decide if they want their kids to have sex surgery or sex change surgery, and the schools can't. How about parents shouldn't have that right to that decision either because they're basing it on decisions that children can't make? Some of these parents are talking about are saying that their 5-year olds, 6-year olds, 7-year olds are able to make these decisions. Neither parents nor school should be making that decision for these kids. You're 18 or older, you're an adult, fine, do what you want. I think you're crazy, but still, go ahead and do it if that's what you want to do. Kids need to be left alone to be kids. Period. There's a statistic that shows that most kids who these parents are saying want to be transsexual, if they're left alone, they grow out of it. You know, they're trying to say that the school could make the decision and parents had no right to disagree. Yeah, I get that. I get that. That's been a thing for the longest time. By the way, just to be clear on this, they've banned the sexual trans thing with kids in European countries. England has banned it. But no, there's still places in the US where it's legal. Schools have been secretly transitioning kids behind parents' backs. Remember the case in Texas? One parent went behind the other's back and did it. And the parent that did it was granted custody of the child. They were stopped from transitioning the kid in Texas, so they went to California. One parent wanted to have their kid transition because their daughter preferred women wearing boys' jeans and not girls' jeans. My daughter, when she was younger, preferred boys' jeans because she said they were more comfortable. Thank God we don't live in a blue state or they'd try and transition her for wearing boys' jeans. Can't be a tom girl if you're or a tomboy. If you're a tomboy, they tried saying that you're. Yeah, that was. I know where Judge Benitez is, but I don't know if that ruling is going to stand once it gets to the Ninth Circuit. And remember, because of the decision of the Supreme Court earlier in the year, that only applies to his district anyway, unless the Ninth Circuit makes a ruling on it. Because district judges can't institute nationwide injunctions. So that his decision only applies in his district anyway. That's a double-edged sword that cuts both ways. There's decisions that we might want to apply nationwide out of a district court, but they don't. Just like there's decisions that we don't want to apply nationwide, and they don't. Packer said, but it's a good start. Yeah, but I don't think, like I said, I don't think the Ninth Circuit's going to let it stand. And then it'll go, and then we see what happens with the Supreme Court if they take the case or not. I just about guarantee that that's going to be overturned by the Ninth Circuit. And keep this in mind too. You got to be 18 to vote, but you can change the left wants to where you can change your quote unquote gender before you even hit puberty. What's wrong with that picture? And Ron Wayne official up there in the chat. Evening, Ron. Got the Cardinals on there just for you. Well, it's still a Christmas season, so I haven't changed the background yet. Yeah. Yeah, there's no way that somebody who hasn't even gone through puberty yet has the mental capacity to determine whether or not they were given, quote unquote, the right gender at birth. That is total nonsense and insanity. Ron says traumatizing by facing his fears. I mean, how many of us went to school with somebody? Because most of everybody that's watching this is at least in their late 30s, early 40s. How many of us went to school with somebody who can actually say we went to school with high school, middle school, elementary school, junior high school, whatever, with somebody who claimed to be a transsexual? I didn't. Hell, I didn't even go to school with anybody that said they were gay. I went to school from the late 70s to the early 90s. 79 to 92. Didn't have a single person who claimed to be transsexual or gay. That I knew of when I was going to school. We didn't have teachers posting gay rights crap in our classrooms. There were no pride flags all over the school. No teachers with multicolored hair. That's a thing today. Pack Rat said he went to school with a guy named Kim, and no, he wasn't gay. I did not go to school with a guy named Kim. I went to a school named Jim, whose girlfriend was Kim. Jim and Kim. That was when I was going to the private Christian school. That was when I would have been in, trying to think, fourth grade, and they were high school seniors at the time. Yeah. Kim and Jim, they ended up getting married after they graduated. It was Jim Potts, and I can't remember what her maiden name was. Fuller, that's what it was. It was Jim Potts and Kim Fuller, and they got married out of high school when they graduated. Yep. Yeah, saw you coming before you even entered the chat. Oh man, yep. It saw Ron coming. Yep. But yeah, neither parents nor schools should be deciding that kids need to transition. That's nonsense. I'd say parents have more authority to do so than a school, but I don't think either one should be doing it. Transitioning a minor should be banned. Period. Like I said, once you're 18 or maybe even 20, make it 21. If you can't drink until you're 21, you shouldn't be transitioning, making that kind of medical decision until you, because you're even at 18, you're mentally you're still not completely fully developed yet. So yeah, I would push it back even to 21, 21 or older to then whatever. 'Cause remember, especially for males, if you go full on, that's not reversible. So yeah, personally, I don't think schools or parents have the right to determine that their child will never be able to have children. Yeah, I've been trying to think. I can't think of a guy that I went to school with that had a girl's name. I didn't go with any guys named Stacy, none named Leslie, none named Kim. Vulcan Rumble out there on the YouTube chat. Evening to you. Yeah, that's basically what I said, Pack Rat. I, I don't think that parents should be able to make that decision either. But if it comes down to them in the school, they have more right than the school does. Pack Rat said, not saying it's right, but parents should be able to make decisions for the kids, not the school. Yeah, schools want to take, particularly in certain districts and states, want to take too much power and act like they're the parents and not the actual parents of the child. Which is why you have a lot of people pushing for homeschooling and whatnot, and the school vouchers and all. So you can send your kids to people who can't afford to can send their kids to private school, all that kind of stuff. Because of that kind of nonsense, where the schools think that they have the authority to say what's best for the kids and not the parents. Oh, I agree. Don't think it should be legal, but parents have rights. Yeah, I agree. But at some point, there's got to be a limit to what the parents can do for the safety of the child. Um, Parents deciding to transition their kids amounts to child abuse in my mind, as far as I'm concerned, and it should be prosecuted as such. Oh, my daughter likes to play with trucks. She must be a boy. Oh, my son's playing Barbies with his sister. He must think he's a girl. And then you got the parents who had, and this has been documented as a thing. It's one of the reasons why the woman in Texas went behind her back to have their son transition. Shut up, cat. They had twin boys. She wanted a girl, so she decided that the one boy wanted to be a girl and got a friend of hers who was a counselor to do it, to back her up on that and clear conflict of interest there. But yeah. Yeah. Falcon Rumble says they want to turn schools into indoctrination prisons. Well, they've already done that in certain places. Somebody on X the other day posted a statistic of left wing professors versus uh, right wing professors at, what was it, like 8 or 9 different universities. And UCLA had the most right wing out of this statistics. They had 10% of their faculty that were right wing. 90% of UCLA's faculty was left wing. Harvard or Yale had the smallest, less than 1% of the faculty were right right wing, conservative, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, if they don't get you in the public schools, depending on where you live, they're going to get you in most of your universities, particularly the Ivy League. Ivy League is horrible for being run by leftists. Yeah, yeah. Major universities, for the most part, most of them are left wing indoctrination camps. There are exceptions. There are exceptions. My alma mater, for example, Liberty University, they're a right wing school. They're not a leftist school at all. I didn't take a single class there where I felt like I was having to deal with a leftist professor. Now, my oldest, when she was taking college courses, was going through University of Southern New Hampshire or Southern Hampshire University, whatever it is. And she had issues with some of her professors, not all of them, but there were some that she was not thrilled with, shall we say. I am going to kill this cat if they don't shut up. But I don't think I'm going to get a panel tonight, so they're already going. It's 10 to 11. Yeah, Packrat says they have a right wing school in San Antonio, Trinity. Yeah. Yeah, it's like the Christian schools, the independent Christian schools aren't left wing for the most part. I'm not talking about the Catholic schools. I'm talking about the more evangelical Christian schools. They tend to be more, at least moderate, if not on the right. So there's that. And I say not necessarily the Catholic schools because Boston College has gone left. They used to be more moderate, but they've gone left and whatnot. So the Catholic Church is odd. Not to offend anybody out there who's Catholic, but the last two popes have been ridiculous. Just throwing that out there. Uh, one who was Francis, who was a Central American liberty theology, liberation theology. Is that what I said? Yeah. Anyway, liberation theology is basically socialist uh, twisting of Christianity. And the current pope, who they tried saying was more moderate, more conservative, well, he's turning out to be more and more of a Chicago liberal every time he opens his mouth. Trying to say that the United States needs to leave the illegal aliens alone and a bunch of other shit. Because the Bible says to treat travelers nicely. Yeah. You know what the Bible also said? Repel foreign invaders. Foreign travelers are people that are coming to the country and then leave the country again because they're traveling. Illegal aliens are invading the country because they come in illegally and then don't want to leave. They're not the same thing. You know what God also said? And Jesus said, follow the laws of the country that you're in. If you're in the country illegally, you're not following that country's laws. Now, are you? And the chat delay Packrat said it also says obey the laws of both man and God. Yep. Yep. That popped up on the YouTube chat just as soon as I said it in the live chat. So, yep, we're on the same wavelength there. And for all you people that says taxation is theft, there's a little thing in the Bible where somebody asks Christ about paying taxes and tithing. And what was Christ's response? Suffer unto Caesar what is Caesar's and suffer unto God what is God's. That was in direct relation to taxation. Why did Jesus say that? Well, because the money had Caesar's face on it. So he which is what he rationally, how he rationalizes it before he said, utters the suffer under Caesar what is Caesar's and unto God what is God's. Basically, it's like guys like, how do we pay tithes and pay taxes at the same time? And Christ basically asked them, well, whose face is on the money? Caesar's. And Christ is like, well, then it's Caesar's. Pay Caesar what's Caesar's and pay God what's God's. So there you have God incarnate telling people that if the country is levying taxes, pay your taxes. It's their it's got their name on it. U.S. money doesn't have Caesar's picture on it, but it does have the United States of America printed on it. Yes, it's our earned tax dollars, but and Congress did give them the right to lay taxes, or the Constitution gave Congress the right to lay taxes, and it was done through a constitutional amendment. We may not like taxes, but they have a constitutional right to do it. And Packrat says, according to Leviticus, you're not supposed to get tats or permanently alter your body. Yes, that would be the law of Moses, which doesn't pertain to Christians in the majority of that anymore under the new covenant through Christ. So, and the body modification part also, you'll have some people that say that means you shouldn't get ear piercings or other types of piercings, but it was also a common practice back then for men and women both to do so, even among Jews. So, um, piercings seem to not have been part of that in Leviticus either. And going back to the Crusades, you have the Cross of Jerusalem tattoo, which you can only get, which you're only supposed to be able to get in Israel. That was something that was uh, initiated in Israel um, by the Crusaders in Jerusalem. It's the cross where you have this cross in the center and then the four little ones around it. And that was a common thing amongst the Crusaders back, obviously when the Crusades were going on, to get that tattoo. So, yeah, there's still even exceptions to that. Vulcan Rumble says his player is acting funny on Android. Can't help you there, buddy. I don't know. Maybe maybe you need to restart or something. I don't know. Yes, the Secretary of War has that tattoo, and I know of a few other people that have it as well. That when they got it on trips to Israel. Yeah. It is now 11 o'clock at night. Been going for almost 2 hours. Was 10 minutes late because of the situation I already discussed. But yeah, I don't think I'm going to get a panel tonight at this rate. So I think I'm going to wind this down. It's close enough to the 2 hour mark. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in and watching. I hope you enjoyed the show and it was informative, even though I couldn't read for crap at the beginning of it. So, I think it was probably because my head was still bugging me. And like I said, I had just taken medicine before going live because my head was killing me. So, anyway, bid you all a good night. And everybody have a safe and happy New Year if you celebrate the occasion. I personally don't, but if you do, Stay safe. Don't do anything stupid on New Year's Eve night. Don't go out there getting drunk and driving or any of that kind of stuff. Be smart. Celebrate, but do so responsibly and safely, because you get there and get drunk and drive, you're taking other people's lives into your own hands. And remember, the guy that directed A Christmas Story and his son, they're both dead. Why? Because of a drunk driver. So keep that in mind. And until next weekend, we'll bid you all adieu and have a good night, everybody. Thanks for watching.